Welcome back. I'm Michael. You're listening to The Michael Dresser Show. Valarie Denise with us, the author of The Color of Change, How to Leverage Pain with, listen to the word, with process. As the life plan goes, Valarie successfully wears the hat of tripreneur, a media executive, an author, self-publisher, speaker, and a talk radio personality. Now, through her Denver, Colorado-based media and public relations firm, LTL Media PR, her publishing house, Hidden Voices Publication, Inc., and her nationally syndicated radio show, Let's Talk Now, Valarie constantly showcases heroes and their stories. And let's say, Valarie, hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. So excited about being here.
Oh, thank you. You know, there are so many heroes out there that are unsung and unsaid, and there are moms with kids that have nobody but them to take care of them that are in and of themselves heroes, and they go totally unnoticed, and it's time everybody started to look.
Exactly. I agree with that. That's a part of what we do at LTL Media.
Now, by the way, when it comes down to it, the color of change and how to leverage pain with process. Tremendous amount of pain going on today. There's no question about it. But there's got to be that balancing. The pain may stay there, but you also have to step ahead, don't you?
Absolutely. Pain is just an indicator of something out of whack. If you can actually track down where that pain is coming from, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, or physically, you can get to the root cause of your problem.
Now, by the way, when we get into the media, and I've been here for 3,000 years now, you touch people, all kinds of lives, the people that you have on the air, you touch people. Now, you went from a C-level executive you moved to media. What was it for you that made that transition?
Well, it was a part of my life calling, Michael. I think that your listeners can understand that every now and then there's a tug in our spirit at a certain junction in our life to move forward into something else. My philosophy is quite simple. We're really only called to do one thing really special, and I found out that media and public relations was the calling for me.
Now, by the way, when you come down to it in media and publications, it's spreading a word. It's making sure everybody hears what it is that speaker, that author has to hear. And most of it, from what I've seen over the years, comes down to one thing. People run into tremendous amount of crisis. So go back to the pain word again. They have crisis, they have pain. Some people fall down and don't get up. But if you get to a certain stage in your life, in the way that you think, that absolute pain and that crisis can become the best opportunity that could ever happen in any way, shape, or form. But you've got to be able, Valarie, you've got to recognize it.
Absolutely. You know, as I say, absolutely, you've quoted me, crisis creates opportunity, Michael. It really does create opportunity. Any of us can say, you know, when your back is against the wall, you know, you find out that you have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 hands, you can fight forward, even if you need help from someone else to get the job done.
You know, I've interviewed people over a period of time where somebody has lost a child, lost a loved one, lost something, and they've gone through the grieving process, and they captured that aha moment, that moment where the cathartic moment where they begin to realize that there's something out of this, and they take the message that they learned and they bring it to people. And what that does is a couple of things. One, it creates a legacy for that person that was lost, but that person that was lost, even if they're not here anymore, they're responsible for changing or touching or affecting someone else's life.
Well, that's the power of legacy. You've hit it right on the head. It's the power of legacy. Even though we're not here, when it all happens for each of us, our legacy lives on. And that's what the people who we leave behind have to grow on or go with, our legacy. And that can be very powerful and profound.
Now, by the way, you can walk through life and never notice anything, and all of a sudden the problems are there, and there's no way that you can get out of those problems in your mind. What's that first step? What's that bit of, let's call it lightning, that hits when you can start to see that there's some changes coming and you're beginning to experience it? What is it that you begin to recognize?
Well, one of the first things you'll recognize is that everything around you continues to move on. Sometimes we get a little upset when we're going through a grieving process, but life is still going on. The beauty of that visual effect of life going on for those who may be grieving or upset about something is the fact that they can do that too. You know, like creates like. The idea when you're in a process that's very pulling on you or tugging on you, Michael, and I want your listeners to hear this, is that they need to gravitate to those who's moving on with life. maybe not at the same speed, but they can be a part of that euphoric moment and begin to smile again. It's all progressive. It's called a process.
Now, and by the way, in that process, one of the things in the process is not taking no for an answer. Prime example, I know someone who was in college and she wanted to be a professional athlete, and her coach told her, no, you don't have what it takes. And she it hurt her, but she just wouldn't take no for an answer. So she went out and found another coach, and she became the professional athlete. She then went on to become an associate adjunct professor of athletics at a university on the West Coast. Now let's go backwards with it. The coach that she found to teach her, she married the guy, and they've been married for 20 years.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so what I said to her is, the old coach, you should send him flowers and say thank you. But that's that power of no. You never know what's going to happen, but you got to take that step.
I agree. No for me, and this is something that I share with a lot of the people that I work with in my business, is that it's not necessarily no the way you interpret it. I interpret it, and maybe they will too, as not that way. You never change the end journey, the end portion of the journey. Just change the route that you may take to get there.
Oh, and also too, no also may mean not now.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
And, time and place and all of those things, have to do with how we live our life. But I think the most important thing is becoming aware of your life. Most of us live,
Right.
The 2 years ahead, 5 days behind. We're never there. We're never at that point where we are right here and right now. And I wonder how many lives pass and they never have that right now moment. It's just ahead or behind.
I agree. One of the things that's important for all of us to do, no matter what our story is to be in the moment. The moment is where we find the most satisfaction. The second that you allow yourself to go into the future, too far into the future, the mind starts to work on empty because it doesn't know what the future holds. Deal with right now. That's the best place to start.
Yeah, let me give you a prime example of that. Are you sitting by a desk?
I am sitting by a desk.
Okay, touch the desk. Touch it.
Touching it.
Okay, good. It just came into existence, didn't it?
It sure did, but
yes.
it was already there.
Yeah, but the point was, before you put your attention on it, it didn't even exist. It wasn't even there, was it?
Well, if I can think of it, Michael, this is my approach. If I think of it, it exists. The problem is I need to build the road to get there first. So start where I am.
Yeah, but the point is, and let me go back on it because I think it's extremely important. It's the awareness of right now, the putting the attention to it. Someone you love, to touch them, a business that you want to get into. Unless you touch it, it doesn't really exist, and it's not that right now moment that you can move forward with, because we're nothing more than a successions of right now moment. What we just did is in the past, too late's gone. Now that's gone too. So we have to live that right now, this second. What are we going to do in a relationship, in business, and even looking at yourself? What is it right now? And I wonder how many people actually experience themselves. You touch your chest. Now all of a sudden, I know I'm here.
How about that?
Yeah, I didn't know I was here before. Thank goodness I did that. I know I was supposed to be doing something behind this microphone. But when it really comes down to it, it is awareness, isn't it?
It absolutely is about awareness. Self-awareness is the key.
Okay, now how do you translate that? How do you bridge that gap for somebody to really get that to move forward?
Well, one of my thoughts is this. I never teach people to do what I do, but to do what they believe is true. How I focus on life may not work for the next person. So I allow people to just really take the opportunity to understand and absorb their environment the way they interpret it. And as they go on, life will show them whether or not that was a truth or an untruth. That's up to the individual. I believe very strongly in people owning their own oneness. As a writer, as a business leader, as a speaker, I find that when people hear what I say, they relate only to what they know. And over time, they figure out whether or not it fits for them or it does not.
Now, by the way, a media strategist. Now, if I was an author, if I was a speaker, if I'm an entrepreneur, what can I gain from working with you to be able to express my story of crisis?
Well, the beauty of being your own storyteller, which is what I call people in media, is primarily that you get to walk out this 6-step process that I have in place where you attract and find the people who are interested in your story, in your product, in your service. It works every time, and it's been working for a series of years for all of my clients.
And by the way, when I think when it comes down to it, and somebody talks about, their crisis, their problems, their whatever, people begin to relate. It's those shared truths that take on a shared meaning. Because if you're speaking to an audience, one person, 10 million, Valarie, if they don't experience themselves within what you're saying, for the most part, you lose them.
Well, that's true. But listen, I'm not called to everyone, just to those who I'm particularly called to.
Oh, true. No, I got it loud and clear, and I really believe like draws like. What was that? What was that program that they had? The drawing things to you, creating things. What was that? I'll call you at 4:00 in the morning when I remember. But whatever. The secret. The secret. That's what it was. And I happen to think that there's a lot of value to that. Only because if somebody's having a miserable life, well, guess what? They drew it to them. And I think what you're going to draw to you is how you're experiencing yourself at the time. Yourself meaning what you think you can accomplish, what you think you can accomplish. And I think you'll pull to you that same exact energy and level.
It can happen that way, absolutely. But then again, we also have our own energy force. That's what I teach people to use as their guiding light, their own energy force.
Okay, so that's the leveraging factor.
Exactly.
Okay, and so we move towards something called balance. Okay, now, when we move to that, how many people do you think not so much a number, but how many people do you think in this world that we live in, the confusing cultures within a culture, there's no commonality of definition, everybody has a different idea of what the world should be like. How do you pull that together? How do you take what you're doing and get people on the road to experiencing life in such a way that everybody can be satisfied? And I don't mean spread the wealth. That's not where I'm at. But the idea of the ability to have a satisfied life yourself, and if you can touch somebody else, they can have one.
Well, one of the things I find very interesting with the human experience overall, and I've only been here for 52 years, but over the thousands of years this planet has been here, and human beings let alone, we tend to co-mingle or co-blend a lot of things. And we lose our identity in and of ourselves. What I find that when I'm working with my clients is their true identity comes out in the written words, in the way that they speak to me relative to their message, in their desire to get their message out. And that's a safe place for them. And that's why the work I do with folks is so profoundly enriching for them. They're blessed. The people they're working with going forward are blessed, and their identity shines forth. It's just a process.
Have you noticed that and I'm not going to say the majority, I'm going to say all authors, whether it's fact, fun, fiction, fantasy, whatever it is, it's them. And there's a lot of times they don't realize it, but it's them symbolically in that book, no matter what it is. And if they stop and look at it, they'll see themselves.
Well, any storyteller should be telling their story. So, yeah, I agree. That's exactly what it is. It's them.
Yeah, sure, and it's framed in so many different, so many different symbolic meanings, but it comes down to it's them. And I think there's where the power of a story is when somebody's telling a story. And even if somebody's telling a story about their own experience, their own pain, their own crisis, and how they came out of it, that allows other people to be able to mirror that and say, if you can do it, so can I.
Absolutely. The beauty of all of this experience or this journey we're all on is that no one has literally done it by themselves. Each of us has experienced something similar to the next person.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Because when you come down to it, there's no such thing as something brand new. It's all kind of it's all kind of a part of something else. It's derivative. That's the word I was looking for. So there's nothing new, but every once in a while you can come up with something that's unique enough that looks different, that people are going to look at, see, and experience. And I think that's where it's critical and most important. And what we end up doing in the end result, when nothing else works, we begin to see that certain something within us that we didn't realize it was there, but it's always been there. But all you have to do is look. But you need people like you to say, that's where you look.
It's called perspective.
Yeah, the P word. No, I got it. And by the way, when people are ready, if they're not ready, they're not going to see it. There's nothing you can do. But when they're ready,
absolutely.
Yeah, and then when they're ready and they realize they're ready, that's when it starts to happen. Now, where do we find you? Where do we find the book? Where do we find how to get a hold of you if there's going to be any consulting or anything else?
Always call the office toll-free, 1-800-448-3708. My assistant, Sherry, and or the rest of the staff will be able to direct you whether you want publishing, whether you want some sort of media strategical move on your business or service or product, we're here to make it happen. Again, it's 1-800-448-3708.
Now, by the way, is there a website?
Absolutely. That's www.lets-talklive.com. And you can just Google me, Valarie Denise. You'll find me.
Oh, by the way, where do we find you on the air?
On the air, I am in Denver at KLTT, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. drive time. Also in Chicago on TalkZone.com, and that's heard globally. And now, especially, I'm picking up a lot of listeners out in Eastern Europe. I will be in Atlanta and Miami coming soon before the end of the year.
Wonderful. Hey, by the way, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate you and your audience, Michael. Bye-bye.
Oh, take care. Bye-bye.